Hello students, welcome to the science video series. This particular video has arisen from the fact that we've had lots of conversations about variables and how you set these up and how you identify these in different types of scientific investigations. So I thought I'd put a quick thing together. We've had a good discussion as a group about what sort of things we want to use to help you understand the difference between the different types of variables. So I hope this video will be of some use. It's called Identifying and Graphing Variables. So there are three key types of variables that we look at in scientific investigations. And these three types of variables can be remembered with the mnemonic cows moo softly. So a C, an M, and an S. The thing that is the C, the cows, is the thing that changes. There is always something that you choose to change. So that could be you're going to look at the effect of something and measure something every minute or every second. Or we could be looking at what's happening to a certain reaction at different temperatures. We could be looking at the growth of seedlings over different days. But one of these things we choose to change. This is the C, this is the cows, this is the change. In response to that thing that we change, we also decide we're going to measure something. The most important thing that we're looking at is a cause and an effect. And of course, sometimes we think that one thing may cause an effect on something else, but when we actually carry out the experiment, this doesn't happen to be the case. And there may be other factors that we haven't considered. But we can't have more than two variables changing in a particular experiment. And that means we have to have one thing that we change and one thing that we measure. So we could measure the temperature of a solution every minute to see how it changes. Once we do that, we then need to keep everything else the same. It's very important that we control certain conditions, and where we can't control them, we at least make sure that they're the same for each of the trials. So for example, you may not be able to change the temperature of the room, but if all of the experiments are being carried out at the same time in the same room, then those atmospheric conditions should not be a significant factor because you've controlled them. Other times you may specifically choose, if you're going to measure the temperature of water over a certain period of time, if you want to make comparisons, you might want to use, for example, the same type of beaker, the same size of beaker, or the same amount of water. Each of these are things that we are keeping the same. Now, a second acronym that goes with our cows moo softly is I don't care. And that may be how you're feeling at the moment. But I don't care about cows mooing softly helps you remember the specific names of each of these variables. The cows is the I. I is for the independent variable, and the independent variable is the one that we change. The don't is the D. That goes with the M for moo, and it's called the dependent variable. Now it's called a dependent variable, but it doesn't actually always depend on the independent variable, but that's how we label it. So the don't in I don't care stands for dependent variable. The care itself is the control, and you remember when I discussed the same, we want to make sure that we have controls. We either change things that we want to change and keep everything else the same, or we use certain conditions and keep them the same for each thing that we look at. These are the control variables. Now the cows are all going to wander along the ground. They're going to keep horizontal. So that means our independent variable is plotted on the x-axis. It goes along. The moo is going to rise. So as the moo rises vertically, we plot that on the y-axis. So the dependent variable is going to go on the y-axis. The care factor is 0 for control variables. We don't expect them to actually affect our experiment, and therefore we don't put them on the graph at all. They don't appear. So cows moo softly and I don't care are the important things to remember when you're looking at variables. Now we will spend a little bit more time looking at graphing in a separate video, but just so we remember that the independent variable is where the cows are moving horizontally, And the dependent variable is where the mu is rising vertically. Once we put those things in, then we can put our graph in, and if we get a nice straight line like this one is, then that's fantastic. That tells us that there's a direct relationship between these two variables, and we can make a conclusion such as the independent variable increases, so the dependent variable increases. We have a direct proportionality here. We'll look at graphing a little bit more in a separate video, but hopefully this will give you a little bit of an idea of the different types of variables in scientific investigations and how we can try and remember which one is which. Thanks for watching.